Welcome back to Power in the Pause. I'm your host, Chelsea, and this is the space where we slow down, breathe for a second, and remember that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is pause. Today, we're talking about something that sounds simple, but for a lot of women, it feels so incredibly hard. It's how to set boundaries without feeling guilty. And sis, let me just be real with you. A lot of women aren't struggling with how to set boundaries. You know how to say no. You know when something doesn't feel right. You know when you need space. The struggle is often what comes after we set that boundary. It's the guilt, the overthinking, the second guessing. It's that voice in our head that says, wait, was that too much? Gosh, maybe that hurt their feelings. I should have just gone along with it, right? And before you know it, you're backtracking and abandoning yourself, over explaining, reopening doors you meant to close, making yourself uncomfortable again just to relive that guilt. Because this is what so many women don't realize. Guilt doesn't mean you did something wrong. A lot of times, guilt just means that you're doing something different from what people are used to, different from how you've always shown up, different from the version of you that kept the peace and so many other people benefited from. And different can feel so uncomfortable. You're not mean, you're setting boundaries, not just for other people, but for yourself too. Because if you've spent years being the one who's easy, accommodating, and understanding, boundaries can feel like you're doing something wrong even when you're not. And sis, this feeling doesn't come from nowhere. For a lot of women, boundaries feel uncomfortable because somewhere along the way, they learned that being liked mattered, keeping the peace mattered, not upsetting people mattered. So when you start setting boundaries now, your nervous system doesn't read it as healthy. It recognizes it as this might cost me connection, danger, danger. And that's where the guilt comes in. So before we go any further here, I'm going to invite you to pause. Take a slow breath in, pause, and a slow breath out. Again, inhale, pause, exhale. And just notice what comes up for you when you think about setting boundaries. Is it tension? Do you feel some anxiety? Is that urge to soften it, explain it, or make it more comfortable for somebody else? Just notice. You don't have to change it right now. Sis, one of the biggest mindset shifts when it comes to boundaries is this. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about being clear about what you will and what you won't participate in. It's not about you need to stop doing this. It's I'm not available for this. And that's a very different energy. But let's talk about that guilt, that part that pulls you back in. Guilt shows up because you're used to measuring your choices by how they affect other people. So when someone's disappointed, uncomfortable, or doesn't like your boundary, your mind immediately goes to, oh my gosh, I did something wrong. But what if we shifted that? What if instead of asking, did they like my boundary? Do they approve of it? We ask ourselves, did I honor myself? Because, sis, that's the real question. And this is where it gets uncomfortable because sometimes the answer will be yes, and they still won't like that. And you'll have to sit with it without fixing it, without over explaining, without taking it back. And that's where the work is. So let me share how we can make this practical. Like, what does it actually look like to start setting boundaries without getting pulled back in by that guilt? First, stop over explaining. Over explaining is often a way of trying to make your boundary more acceptable to someone else. But the more you explain, the more room you create for negotiation. Your boundary doesn't need a full presentation, it can be quite simple. Something like, I'm not available for that, or that doesn't work for me. And then you stop. Second, expect the discomfort. Instead of trying to avoid guilt, plan for it. Know that it might show up. And then remind yourself this doesn't mean I'm doing something wrong. This just feels new. Okay. Third, let people have their reactions. This one is big. People are allowed to feel how they feel about your boundaries. They can be disappointed, they can not like it, and they can need time to adjust. And none of that means that you need to change your decision. And sis, this is the part that I really want you to take in with you this week. You can be a kind, loving, supportive person and still have boundaries. Those things are not in conflict. Actually, boundaries are what makes relationships sustainable. So, when you find yourself this week setting a boundary and immediately feeling that guilt start to creep in, that pressure to adjust the boundary to benefit someone else, I want you to pause and ask yourself, am I doing something wrong or am I just doing something different? That question can change everything. Thank you for being here with me today. And if this episode resonated with you, share it with another woman who needs permission to choose herself without apologizing for it. And if you want more conversations like this about healing, growth, and stepping into the woman that you're becoming, come join me over on Instagram at She Is Society Official. And until next time, remember, there's always power in the pause.